So I've got something you might be interested in seeing, and that's a white unicorn. A Sig P365 with over 1,500 rounds through it with 0 malfunctions. Yeah, you saw the range footage there, guys. I wanted to run this thing over 1,500. To be honest, I'm approaching 17 now. Not counting the rounds that my son and my wife and other son had put through it. I'm counting my practice rounds, not even hollow points I put through it. Just the ball ammo that I have put through it here at the range. And you saw it with the footage there. She shoots well. It is hot out here right now. It's about 91 degrees. This gun is on fire to the point where the trigger got a little uncomfortable those last couple mags. I wanted to run it. I wanted to see how it would do under extreme conditions. I haven't gotten to shoot it like that yet. When I bought it, it was back in January. It was cold. Run a lot of rounds through it, that's fine, but I wanted to see in extreme heat, normal lubrication, how it would run. And you guys saw it. Lock back after every magazine, no light primer strikes, ejection was fine. It truly is a white unicorn, from what everybody tells me. So we're gonna head to the bench in a little bit. There've been some concerns with the 365 on the Gen 2 models. And we're gonna go to the bench and talk about pretty much all of that. So watch it until the end. I did shoot another gun today. I'm not gonna put it on the footage here, but I'm gonna take some casings of the 365 as well as from that other gun. And I'm gonna show you guys up close. There's some concerns out there I want to address. So let's head to the bench with a white unicorn. So I've got the 365 broken down on the bench here with the frame, the chassis, which is houses the trigger, and the striker. And we're going to take a look at these components in just a second. But I wanted to take a look at the inside of the frame. I wanted to make sure that the chassis had a good fit on the inside. I haven't broken this gun down. I haven't taken it apart to check that. And just one thing to eliminate, just to see if it, the fitment was right from the chassis inside of the frame, to make sure there wasn't going to be any premature wear or anything squirrely going on. And aside from being a little dirty from being shot, she looks good. No burrs kicked up, chips, dings, scratches, bruises. It actually looks really good for having well over 1,500 rounds. I'd expect maybe something, a little mark on the side or where the trigger bar moves, but this thing just looks brand new, with the exception of right there, just a little bit. And that's the only where this thing shows, and that's not even, where you can't feel it. So frame looks good. Oh yeah, the orientation. Just so when I start playing around with the trigger, there you go. That's how she goes. Triggers toward the front of the gun. I know that may seem elementary, but we'll talk about the trigger in just a second. We're going to talk about the striker, and we're going to talk about primer drag. All right. The first batch of problems with the Gen 1s, and I do have a Gen 1 gun, but I didn't have any of the problems that anyone else had, except for a little bit of the peening, so to speak, which mine, as I showed you guys in my 1,000 round review, was more witness marks on the finish. And that's still the case. Just a little bit of witness mark on the finish, same way inside of the slide. Nothing I would be concerned about. The Walther PPS is a great gun. I know there were some people that were concerned about that for a while with the peening around the feed ramps, but it's not going to weaken. Metallurgically, it would take a beating to make a barrel so weak that it's going to blow or cause catastrophic issues. The barrels are pretty, robust material. You got to think about the pressures those things are firing there, and they do it time and time again. So a little bit of barrel peening is not a big deal. Same way on the inside of the slide. I personally think that was a little bit overblown. Now, some of the first gen issues that I think were very serious were light primer strikes. In some cases, maybe the heavy gunk inside of the striker channel, okay. In other cases, people would clean them out and put it back together and still got light primer strikes. So that concerned me, because light primer strike, broken primer, bad ammo, bad trigger, whatever makes the gun not fire in a self-defense situation is potentially a life. And that's just not something that I take lightly, and I don't play around with it. So I've been watching mine carefully, and again, well over 1,500 rounds, guys, and not a single issue out of my 365. So let's take a look at the striker. Get as close as I can. There you go. It literally looks brand new. There is no premature wear, pits, dings, bends. It just looks like it was just taken out of the manufacturer's warehouse and thrown in my gun. It just looks brand new. Now, if it were weak, you know, had any kind of fractures or anything, you probably could get away, probably break it. Obviously, it's harder metal than my fingers, but again, it just feels really solid and rigid. My striker is in good shape. Now, one of the major concerns people have had is primer drag, and this goes along with, I think, the barrel painting, where people are overblowing this to a huge degree. And it goes back to the notoriety the 365 is getting, any attention. People don't look at their primers on their spent casings enough to realize that there are a lot of guns that drag the primers. And I'm going to show you one brass and one aluminum. This is out of the 365. And you can see I have got a little drag going on there. No doubt. Does it concern me? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, because I can promise you with 100% certainty that if this striker is made properly, I don't care if it's machined or memmed, if it's made properly to spec, it is a million times harder than the primers on these rounds. Even the casings should not cause any kind of striker breakage. So don't look at the primer drag as the culprit, guys. It's the striker. If the striker isn't up to the proper Rockwell hardness, the tip will break. And it doesn't matter if it's a soft material, hard material, it doesn't matter. This is the problem, not a little bit of drag on the casing. So I want to show you guys casings from another gun I shot at the range. And I want to make sure the drag, yep, goes the same way there. So take a look here. You're going to see some primer drag there. Now you might recognize that primer strike. There you go. A little bit of drag there going toward the bottom. Now it's not going to show up as much because of the nature of this striker. And some of you guys are going to be familiar with that look because it's from a G19. This is not a micro, this is not a single stack, this is not a tiny gun, but yet there's still some primer drag. Am I concerned? Absolutely not. People talk about the reliability of Glocks over and over again, but yet when you see a 365 dragging a primer a little bit, oh my God, the world's going to end and it's breaking strikers. Well, again, if the striker's made to spec, that primer is not going to break the striker, all right? So let's move on. Trigger. I've read on a couple of forums where people have said that their triggers are falling out. The only way, if they're made in this configuration, the only way that's happening is if the actual wire is breaking and then the trigger spring is coming out, just because of the configuration. And I'm going to show you guys when you compress the trigger there. When you press it, it compresses the spring beautifully. And I've been playing around testing this a little bit by flicking the trigger and just to make sure it springs back nicely, and it does. It feels solid. There definitely is no weakness on the wire. And I'm going to show you guys why I said there's no way the trigger springs are just falling out. You can see right there the wire has passed through a little opening, and it's actually in there pretty good. You can push on that wire and you can't, I'm pushing pretty good on that and you can't get that to pop out. So the other side has got a V notch that it rests in. And again, I have pushed up on that, tried to get that to dislodge. Now I'm sure I could if I took tools, but just with my fingers and through normal use, my trigger spring is working beautifully, guys. So there you go. The bench look at the 365. Frame looks good. Striker looks good. Trigger looks good. So there you go, guys. You've seen my 365. I got her put back together here, and it is running like a champ. Now, there are people out there, including, I'm not going to give him any publicity, but he has a very, very big YouTube channel. People put a lot of stock into what he has to say. That's all I'm gonna say. He basically is calling people idiots for being willing to carry this gun. But here's the truth. This gun could have failed at 200 rounds, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000. This Glock 19 could have failed at 200, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever. It's a piece of machinery, and sooner or later it will fail. they will absolutely fail sooner or later. So it's a risk. When we carry a gun and we count on a mechanical piece of equipment to help us defend our lives, it's a risk, okay? And I realize we want reliable guns. I get all that. I totally get it. But I have zero reason to believe that this isn't a reliable handgun for me. Like I've said before, I've got 1,500 ball rounds through it. I've got hollow points through it. And my wife and 2 sons have got rounds through it that I didn't even count toward that 1,500. It would be stupid of me, dumb to say my gun probably isn't trustworthy. So that's my take, guys, on the 365. I didn't plan on doing any more videos on this unless problems develop down the road, but I've been getting a lot of messages on it and a lot of questions and comments, and somebody will have a problem on this channel and somebody will message me and say, hey, have you had this problem? Or somebody will say, hey, this gun's working well, but they notice this. Is yours doing that? So I thought I would just do this video. I can point people to it. My 365 is still perfect, guys, and beyond the 1,500 rounds, a lot of dry firing. I do it constantly. So no problems, guys. My 365 is running great. If you like this video, please hit that little like below and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate the support. Thank you all for watching.